The poor maid tried to apologize. Her toddler did something no one expected. The crystal vase fell in slow motion, or at least that's how it felt to Maria Rodriguez as she watched it slip from her trembling fingers. The priceless baccarat piece, one of dozens that adorned the Connecticut mansion of tech billionaire Alexander Hunt, crashed against the Italian marble floor with a sound that seemed to echo through every one of the estate's 42 rooms. Maria's heart stopped. Her breath caught in her throat. The fragments scattered like diamonds across the floor, each piece representing another nail in the coffin of the job she desperately needed. "No, no, no," she whispered, dropping to her knees. Her hands hovered over the shards, unsure whether to start picking them up or if that would only make things worse. Tears blurred her vision as the reality of what she'd done crashed over her like a wave. This wasn't just any vase. Mr. Hunt had specifically mentioned it during her first day 3 months ago. A gift from a business partner in Paris, worth more than Maria would earn in 5 years. Maybe 10. She'd been so careful around it every single day, dusting it with the gentleness one might use with a newborn baby. But today, her daughter Lily had been up all night with a fever. Maria had gotten maybe 2 hours of sleep, and her hands had been shaking from exhaustion and worry. She'd considered calling in sick, but she couldn't afford to. Not with Lily's medical bills piling up, not with rent due in a week, not with her ancient car making that grinding noise that meant another expensive repair was coming. So she'd come to work, leaving her precious 3-year-old with Mrs. Chen next door, praying Lily's fever would break and that she could just get through the day without incident. So much for that prayer. What happened here? The voice was cool, controlled, and unmistakably belonging to Alexander Hunt himself. Maria's head snapped up. There he stood in the doorway of the grand living room, wearing one of his perfectly tailored suits, his dark hair slightly tousled as if he'd been running his hands through it. At 33, he was the youngest self-made billionaire in the tech industry, having revolutionized cybersecurity with his company, Hunt Tech. Forbes called him a genius. The Wall Street Journal called him ruthless. His employees called him fair but exacting. Maria had called him terrifying. "Mr. Hunt, her voice cracked. She tried again, forcing herself to stand on shaking legs. "I'm so sorry. I didn't sleep well, and I was careless, and I know there's no excuse." "Are you hurt?" he asked, his ice blue eyes scanning her hands. The question caught her off guard. "I know, sir. I'm fine." He walked closer, and Maria instinctively stepped back, her shoe crunching on crystal. She winced. Alexander's jaw tightened. "Don't move. You're not wearing proper shoes for this." He glanced at her worn canvas sneakers, the only comfortable pair she owned that could handle 12-hour shifts on her feet. He pulled out his phone, and Maria's heart sank further. He was probably calling security to escort her out. Or his lawyer. Could she be sued for this? She didn't have anything to sue for, but the thought alone made her dizzy. "David, I need the cleaning crew in the East living room immediately." "Broken crystal," he said into the phone, then hung up. His gaze returned to Maria, who was now openly crying, unable to hold back the tears anymore. "Mr. Hunt, please," she began, her voice thick with emotion. "I know I can't pay for the vase, but maybe you could take it from my paychecks? I could work extra hours, I could." "Ms. Rodriguez," he interrupted, his tone softer than she'd ever heard it. "Accidents happen. But it was expensive and it was important and I was careless." "It was glass," he said simply. "You're a person. There's no comparison." He gestured toward the door. "The cleaning crew will be here in a moment. Why don't you take your break early? You look like you need it." Maria stared at him, unable to process what was happening. She'd been so certain she was fired. You're not letting me go?" Something flickered across his face. Surprise, maybe, or something that might have been concern. "Why would I fire you? You're the best housekeeper I've had. The house has never been cleaner, and unlike the previous staff, you actually seem to care about doing the job well." "But the vase. Can be replaced, he said firmly. You, however, are not so easily replaced. Good employees are hard to find. He paused, studying her tear-stained face. You mentioned you didn't sleep well. Is everything all right? The kindness in his voice was her undoing. Fresh tears spilled down her cheeks. My daughter was sick all night. She had a fever, and I couldn't afford to miss work, so she stopped herself. He didn't need to hear about her problems. Rich people didn't care about the struggles of their staff. I'm sorry. That's not your concern. If it affects your work, it is my concern, he said, but his tone wasn't harsh. If anything, he sounded almost worried. How old is your daughter? 3, Maria whispered. Her name is Lily. And she's sick? Have you taken her to a doctor? Mrs. Chun is watching her today. I'll take her to the clinic after work if the fever doesn't break. If she could afford the copay, she didn't add. Alexander was quiet for a moment, his expression unreadable. The cleaning crew arrived, and he stepped aside, guiding Maria out of the room with a gentle hand at her elbow. The first time he'd ever touched her, she realized. His hand was warm and steady, while she was still trembling. Take the rest of the day off, he said once they were in the hallway. Mr. Hunt, I can't. Paid leave, he clarified. Go be with your daughter. We'll discuss the vase situation when you're back, but I assure you, you're not in trouble. His phone buzzed, and he glanced at it with a frown. I have a meeting. But Ms. Rodriguez. He waited until she met his eyes. Your daughter needs you more than I need a clean house today. Go. Maria nodded, not trusting herself to speak without breaking down completely. She gathered her things from the staff room, her mind spinning. In 3 months of working for Alexander Hunt, he'd barely spoken 20 words to her. He was always busy, always in meetings or on calls, treating her with polite indifference the way the wealthy often treated their help, as if she were part of the furniture. But today, something had shifted. She'd seen something in his eyes when he asked about Lily. Something that looked almost like understanding. As she drove her rattling car back to her tiny apartment, Maria couldn't stop replaying the scene. She'd broken something priceless, and instead of anger, she'd received kindness. Instead of being fired, she'd been given the day off. She didn't know that this was only the beginning. She didn't know that her daughter Lily was about to change everything. The fever broke around midnight. Maria had spent the entire evening sponging Lily's forehead with cool water, singing soft lullabies in Spanish, the same ones her own mother had sung to her years ago in Mexico City, before cancer had taken her. When Lily's temperature finally dropped to normal, Maria cried with relief, holding her baby girl close and thanking God for this small mercy. The next morning, Lily was bright and energetic as if she'd never been sick at all. That was the way with toddlers. They bounced back with a resilience adults could only envy. Mama, work? Lily asked, tugging on Maria's hand as they ate breakfast. Oatmeal with a drizzle of honey, the same thing they ate most mornings because it was cheap and filling. Yes, baby. Mama has to go to work. You're going to spend the day with Mrs. Chun again. Lily's face fell. No, Mrs. Chun. Want Mama. Maria's heart cracked a little, the way it did every time she had to leave her daughter. I know, mi amor. But Mama has to work so we can have food and our home. Want Mama, Lily repeated, her brown eyes filling with tears. It was going to be one of those mornings. Maria understood. Lily had been sick and scared, and now she wanted the comfort only a mother could provide. But understanding didn't change the facts. Maria had to work, and there was no alternative. By the time Maria got Lily to Mrs. Chen's apartment and made it to the Hun estate, she was 15 minutes late, the first time she'd ever been late. She rushed in through the staff entrance, her heart pounding, preparing another apology. She nearly collided with Margaret, the estate manager, in the hallway. There you are, Margaret said, her usually stern face showing something that might have been sympathy. Mr. Hunt asked me to tell you that he'd like to see you in his study before you start work. Maria's stomach dropped. So this was it. He'd been kind yesterday, given her time to be with Lily, but now came the real conversation. The firing. Maybe even a bill for the vase. Of course, Maria managed. Right away. She'd never been in Alexander Hunt's private study. The cleaning crew handled that room. Maria was responsible for the common areas, guest rooms, and the formal spaces. But she knew where it was, on the second floor with windows overlooking the estate's gardens. She climbed the stairs on shaking legs and knocked softly on the heavy oak door. "Come in," his voice called. The study was exactly what she'd expected. All dark wood, leather furniture, and floor-to-ceiling bookshelves. Alexander sat behind a massive desk, but he stood when she entered, gesturing to one of the chairs across from him. "Ms. Rodriguez, please sit." She perched on the edge of the chair, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. "Mr. Hunt, I'm so sorry I was late today. My daughter was clingy this morning after being sick, and—" "I'm not concerned about 15 minutes, he interrupted. "How is she? Your daughter, Lily. Is she better?" The question surprised her. "Yes, sir. The fever broke last night. She's completely back to normal." "Good." He leaned back in his chair, studying her with those intense blue eyes. "Ms. Rodriguez, I asked you here because I've been thinking about our conversation yesterday." "Here it comes," Maria thought. "I realize I know very little about you, despite the fact that you work in my home 40 hours a week. That's my failing, not yours. I've been too focused on work, too disconnected from the people around me." He paused. "I'd like to correct that. Tell me about your situation. You're a single mother?" Maria hesitated. This felt like dangerous territory. But something in his demeanor, a genuine interest she'd never seen before, made her answer honestly. "Yes, sir. Lily's father left when I was pregnant. It's just the two of us." "And you're struggling financially." It wasn't a question, but she nodded anyway. "I manage. We have what we need." "Do you?" he asked gently. "You mentioned not being able to afford missing work. You were going to take your daughter to a clinic rather than a pediatrician. Your car sounds like it's on its last legs. I heard it yesterday when you arrived." Heat flooded Maria's cheeks. She'd been so careful to keep her problems private, to never burden anyone with her struggles. "Mr. Hunt, I appreciate your concern, but I don't need charity. I work hard and—" "I'm not offering charity," he said. "I'm offering you a raise and better benefits." Maria's mouth fell open. "I did some research last night," Alexander continued. "I pay the standard rate for housekeeping staff, but that standard is inadequate. You're doing excellent work, and more importantly, you're a mother trying to provide for your child. Hunt Tech has excellent health insurance, childcare subsidies, and other benefits for employees. There's no reason my household staff shouldn't receive the same." I don't understand," Maria stammered. "It's simple. I'm increasing your salary by 40% and enrolling you in the company benefits program. You'll have health insurance for both you and Lily, access to our on-site childcare facility at Hunt Tech headquarters. It's only 10 minutes from here, and other benefits we can discuss." Tears sprang to Maria's eyes for the second time in 2 days. "Why?" The question seemed to catch him off guard. "Because it's the right thing to do," he said after a moment. "And because yesterday, when you were standing there terrified over a broken vase, all you could think about was your daughter. That kind of love, that kind of dedication, it matters. People matter more than things, Ms. Rodriguez. I built a billion-dollar company on that principle. I should apply it to my own home." Maria couldn't speak. The raise alone would change everything. She could finally get her car fixed, pay down Lily's medical bills, maybe even save a little. And health insurance? That was a dream she'd given up on years ago. "There's one condition," Alexander added. Of course there was. Maria braced herself. "Starting Monday, I'd like you to bring Lily to work with you. The estate is large, and we can set up a play area for her. She shouldn't have to spend her days with a neighbor when she could be with her mother." This time, the tears did fall. Maria covered her face with her hands, overwhelmed by a kindness she'd never expected from a man she'd thought barely knew she existed. "Ms. Rodriguez? Maria?"
His voice was closer now.
She looked up to find him kneeling beside her chair, his expression concerned. "Did I upset you?" "No," she managed through her tears. "No, you've just changed our lives. I don't know how to thank you." "You don't need to thank me. Just keep being the excellent employee you are." He stood, returning to his desk. "Margaret will help you with the paperwork for the benefits. And if you need an advance on your new salary for any immediate expenses, just ask." Maria left the study in a daze. She went through the motions of her work that day, but her mind was spinning. She kept expecting to wake up and find it had all been a dream. The raise, the benefits, the invitation to bring Lily to work. But it wasn't a dream. Margaret presented her with the paperwork that afternoon, her stern demeanor softened by what might have been approval. "Mr. Hunt has never done this for household staff before," she said. "You must have made quite an impression." That night, Maria held Lily close and whispered the news to her. "Everything's going to be different now, mi amor. Everything's going to be better." She had no idea how true those words would prove to be. Monday morning arrived with spring sunshine and Lily's excited chatter. Maria had spent the weekend preparing her daughter for this new adventure, explaining that she'd be at Mama's work, that she needed to be good and quiet and not touch anything. Lily had nodded solemnly at each instruction, her little face serious. "Be good, Mama. Promise." Alexander had been true to his word. When Maria arrived with Lily's hand clasped tightly in hers, Margaret showed them to a sunroom that had been transformed into a child's paradise. There were toys, books, a small table, and chairs, even a TV with kid-friendly programming ready to go. "Mr. Hunt had everything delivered over the weekend," Margaret explained, and Maria caught the hint of warmth in her voice. The estate manager bent down to Lily's level. "Hello there. You must be Lily." Lily pressed against Maria's leg, suddenly shy. "It's okay, baby," Maria encouraged. "This is Miss Margaret. Can you say hello?" "Hello," Lily whispered. "What beautiful manners," Margaret said. "I think we're going to get along just fine." The first few days went smoothly. Lily played contentedly in her sunroom while Maria worked, and Maria checked on her daughter every hour. They ate lunch together in the staff kitchen, and Lily charmed everyone from the gardeners to the security team with her dimpled smile and sweet nature. Alexander was traveling for business, so Maria didn't see him. Part of her was relieved. She still felt overwhelmed by his kindness and didn't quite know how to act around him anymore. But on Thursday, he returned. Maria was polishing the banister in the main foyer when she heard his voice, tight with frustration, coming from the direction of his office. Then another voice, male, older, equally angry. "You're making a mistake, Alex. This merger is our chance to sell out everything we built? No thank you, Richard. You're being stubborn and short-sighted. The board won't." Their voices rose, the argument intensifying. Maria tried to focus on her work, to tune it out, but it was impossible. She'd never heard Alexander like this, cold, cutting, furious. Then she heard small footsteps behind her. "Mama?" Lily stood there, her favorite stuffed bunny clutched to her chest. "Why the man yelling?" "Oh, baby, you're supposed to stay in your room." But before Maria could finish, Lily had started walking toward Alexander's office, drawn by curiosity or concern or that mysterious something that guided toddlers toward precisely where they shouldn't go. "Lily, no," Maria hissed, abandoning her polishing to chase after her daughter. She was too late. Lily pushed open the partially closed office door and walked right in. Maria's heart stopped as she rushed in behind her daughter, ready to scoop her up and apologize profusely. Alexander stood on one side of his desk, his face flushed with anger, his tie loosened. Across from him was an older man in an expensive suit, equally red-faced. Both men stopped mid-argument to stare at the tiny intruder. I'm so sorry, Mr. Hunt, Maria began, reaching for Lily. She got away from me. But Lily had already walked right up to Alexander. She looked up at him with those big brown eyes, then held out her stuffed bunny. You sad? She asked in her clear, high voice. The anger on Alexander's face evaporated, replaced by complete bewilderment. I what? You sad, Lily declared. Mr. Hoppy help. He make me happy when I sad. She pushed the bunny toward him insistently. Maria wanted to melt into the floor. Lily, sweetie, Mr. Hunt is busy. Alexander held up a hand, stopping her. Then, to Maria's utter shock, he knelt down to Lily's level, his expression softening in a way she'd never seen. Mr. Hoppy, he asked gently. Lily nodded. He very good at hugs. You want hug? A sound escaped Alexander that might have been a laugh. I would love a hug. Lily beamed and threw her arms around his neck, squeezing tight. Alexander's arms came around her small body, and he closed his eyes. When he opened them again, they were suspiciously bright. Thank you, Lily, he said quietly. That's the nicest thing anyone's done for me in a very long time. You stop being sad now? Lily asked, pulling back to study his face with the seriousness only a 3-year-old could manage. I'll try, he promised. And you, Lily said, turning to the older man with a stern expression that was so much like Maria's that Alexander actually smiled. You stop yelling. Yelling not nice. The man, Richard, looked completely taken aback. Then, incredibly, he laughed. Out of the mouths of babes, he said, shaking his head.
She's right, Alex.
We're both being ridiculous. Yeah, Alexander agreed, standing but keeping one hand on Lily's shoulder. We are. He looked at Richard with something like relief. We want the same thing. What's best for the company? Let's table this discussion and come back to it when we're both calmer. Agreed. Richard's expression softened as he looked at Lily. Thank you, young lady. You're very wise. Lily giggled, then looked up at Alexander. I go play now. You can go play, he confirmed. But Mr. Hoppy can stay with me, if that's okay. I might need him a little longer. Lily considered this seriously, then nodded. Okay, but you give him back later. He gets scared without me. I promise, Alexander said solemnly. Maria finally managed to find her voice. Come on, Lily. Let's get you back to your room. She met Alexander's eyes, her cheeks burning. I'm so sorry. Don't be, he said, and there was something in his expression she couldn't quite read. Warmth, maybe, or something deeper. She just defused a situation that could have cost the company millions and ended a 20-year friendship. I'd say she's earned the right to wander. That evening, Alexander appeared in the sunroom doorway just as Maria was getting ready to take Lily home. He still had Mr. Hoppy, and Lily squealed with delight when she saw him. Mr. Hoppy missed you, Alexander said, kneeling to hand the bunny back. Thank you for letting me borrow him. You all better now? Lily asked. Much better. You know what? You're pretty special, Lily. Lily beamed at him, then did something that made Maria's breath catch. She kissed Alexander's cheek, quick and sweet, the way she kissed Maria goodnight. Bye-bye, Lily said happily, clutching Mr. Hoppy. Alexander stood slowly, touching his cheek with an expression of wonder. His eyes met Maria's, and she saw something there that made her heart beat faster. Not the detached politeness of an employer. Something real. Something that really saw her, as a person, not just a housekeeper. Your daughter is remarkable, he said quietly. She has a big heart, Maria agreed, her voice barely above a whisper. She gets that from her mother, I think. The moment stretched between them, loaded with something neither of them was quite ready to name. Then Lily tugged on Maria's hand, breaking the spell. Hungry, Mama. Okay, baby. Let's go home and make dinner. As they left, Maria felt Alexander's gaze following them. She told herself not to read too much into it. He was just being kind. He was grateful that Lily had helped him. But that night, as she tucked Lily into bed, her daughter said something that made her wonder. "Mama, Mr. Alex lonely. Like you sometimes." "What makes you say that, baby?" He got sad eyes. "Like you when you think I not looking." Maria kissed her daughter's forehead, marveling at the wisdom contained in such a small person. "Maybe you're right, me more. Maybe you're right." She had no idea that Lily's observation would prove prophetic, or that the three of them were about to become something none of them expected, a family. The change was subtle at first. Alexander started appearing more often when Maria was working, not hovering, just present. He'd bring his laptop to the library while she dusted, working in comfortable silence. He'd stop by the sunroom to visit with Lily, bringing her small gifts, a new book, a packet of crayons, once even a toy tea set that Lily adored. "You don't have to do this," Maria told him after the tea set appeared. "You've already done so much." "I want to," he said simply. "She reminds me of why I work so hard, what it's all for." He paused. "My parents died when I was young. I was raised by my grandfather, a good man, but distant. All business. I built Hunt Tech to prove something to him, even after he passed. But lately I've been wondering, what's the point of success if you have no one to share it with?" The vulnerability in his voice surprised her. This was Alexander Hunt, the man Forbes called the Ice King of Tech for his cool business demeanor. Yet here he stood, admitting to loneliness. "Family is everything," Maria said softly. "I'd give up everything I have, which isn't much, but I'd give it all up if it meant keeping Lily safe and happy." "I know you would. I've seen it." He met her eyes. "That kind of love is rare, Maria. Don't ever apologize for it." It was the first time he'd used her first name. The sound of it in his voice did something to her heart, something she'd sworn she wouldn't let happen. She couldn't afford to develop feelings for Alexander Hunt. The worlds they lived in were too different, the gap between them too wide. But her heart, it seemed, hadn't gotten that memo. The following week, Lily got sick again. Nothing serious, just a spring cold, but it left her clingy and fussy. Maria kept her home on Monday and Tuesday, but by Wednesday she was well enough to come to work, if not quite back to her normal energetic self. She spent most of the day curled up on the sunroom couch, watching cartoons with Mr. Hoppy, while Maria checked on her more frequently than usual. Around 3 o'clock, Maria brought Lily some apple slices and juice, only to find Alexander already there, sitting on the floor beside the couch, reading to Lily from one of her storybooks. Maria froze in the doorway, afraid to break the spell of the scene before her. Alexander's deep voice was soft and animated as he read about a brave little mouse on an adventure. Lily was curled against his side, her thumb in her mouth, something she only did when she felt sick or scared, her eyes drooping sleepily. "And so the mouse found his way home," Alexander finished, "where his mother was waiting with open arms and warm milk." "Like Mama waits for me," Lily murmured sleepily. "Exactly like that." Alexander glanced up and saw Maria.
"Hey."
She was asking for a story. "You didn't have to." "I know. I wanted to." He carefully shifted Lily, who was falling asleep against him. "She said her throat hurt, so I called Dr. Morrison. She's the best pediatrician in the state. She'll be here within the hour." "Alexander, I can take her to the clinic." "A house call is easier on Lily, and you're still working. It's no trouble." He said it so casually, as if calling in one of the state's top doctors was as simple as ordering pizza. Maria's eyes filled with tears, a common occurrence these days. "You keep doing things like this, and I don't know how to. I can't repay you." "Then don't." He stood carefully, not wanting to wake Lily. "Maria, can I be honest with you?" She nodded, not trusting her voice. "I'm 33 years old. I have more money than I could spend in 10 lifetimes. I've built a company that's changed the tech industry. I've accomplished everything I set out to do." He ran a hand through his hair, a gesture of frustration she'd come to recognize. But I come home to this big empty house every night, and it means nothing. The success means nothing. Then you and Lily came along, and suddenly this house feels like a home. You've given me something I didn't even know I was missing. What's that? Maria whispered. Purpose. Connection. A reason to leave work at a reasonable hour instead of staying until midnight. He smiled, but there was something vulnerable in his eyes. A 3-year-old girl who gives me her favorite bunny when she thinks I'm sad. A woman who breaks a priceless vase and apologizes with tears in her eyes, not because she might lose her job, but because she thinks she disappointed me. Alexander. I'm falling for you, he said quietly. Both of you. I know that's complicated, and I know I'm your employer, and maybe this is completely inappropriate, but I can't keep pretending I don't feel it. Maria's heart hammered in her chest. I'm your employee. I'm a maid. You're a man, he interrupted. Just a man who's been lonely for a very long time and who's found something precious in the most unexpected place. He took a step toward her. You're not just a maid, Maria. You're an amazing mother, a hard worker, a kind and compassionate person. You're real in a world where everyone around me is fake. You see me, not my bank account. This is crazy, Maria said, but her voice lacked conviction. Maybe. Or maybe it's the first sane thing I've done in years. He reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away, and brushed a tear from her cheek. I'm not asking you to make any decisions right now. I just needed you to know how I feel. The moment was shattered by Lily's sleepy voice. Mama? Mr. Alex? You getting married? They both turned to find Lily sitting up on the couch, rubbing her eyes, looking at them with that uncanny toddler wisdom. What? Maria sputtered. No, baby, we're just… You should, Lily declared. Then Mr. Alex not be lonely, and we live in the big house, and I have a daddy. The innocence of it broke Maria's heart and filled it at the same time. Alexander knelt beside the couch, his expression tender. Would you like that, Lily? If I spent more time with you and your mama? Lily nodded enthusiastically. You read good stories.
And you not yell anymore.
And you give good hugs. Those are excellent reasons, Alexander agreed seriously. He looked up at Maria. What do you say? Can I take you both to dinner this weekend? Somewhere Lily would like. Maria knew she should say no. This was her employer, a billionaire, a man from a completely different world. It would never work. People would talk. They'd say she was a gold digger, that she was using him, that she was taking advantage. But Lily was looking at her with such hope. And Alexander was looking at her with something that looked a lot like love. Okay, she heard herself say. Dinner. This weekend. The smile that broke across Alexander's face was worth every complication that might come. Dr. Morrison arrived shortly after and declared Lily's cold nothing to worry about, prescribing rest and fluids. Alexander insisted Maria take the rest of the week off, paid, of course, to care for Lily. He also insisted on covering the cost of any medicine Lily needed. That weekend, he took them to a family-friendly Italian restaurant where Lily charmed the waitstaff and got more chocolate gelato on her face than in her mouth. Alexander laughed more than Maria had ever seen him laugh, his usual reserved demeanor melting away in Lily's presence. They walked through a nearby park afterward, and Lily ran ahead to look at the ducks in the pond. Alexander took Maria's hand, lacing their fingers together. Is this okay? He asked. It's terrifying, Maria admitted. But yes. It's okay. I'll take terrifying, he said with a smile. That means you feel it too.
She did.
God help her, she did. That night, as Maria tucked an exhausted Lily into bed, her daughter smiled sleepily up at her. I like Mr. Alex, Mama. He makes you smile. You pretty when you smile. You think we should give him a chance, baby?
Yes.
He got sad eyes, but you make them happy. Like I make your sad eyes happy. Maria kissed her daughter's forehead, overwhelmed by the love she felt for Lily and increasingly for Alexander. When did you get so wise? Always been wise, Mama, Lily said seriously. You just now noticing. Maria laughed, the sound free and genuine. For the first time in years, she felt hope. Real hope. Not just for survival, but for happiness. 3 months later, Maria stood in front of the mirror in what used to be a guest room but was now her bedroom, hers and Lily's, in the wing Alexander had renovated for them. She smoothed down the simple blue dress she wore, her hands trembling slightly. You look beautiful, Mama, Lily said from her perch on the bed. She was dressed in a pink dress with flowers, her curly hair held back with a matching headband. Thank you, baby. Maria turned to her daughter. Are you ready for this? Lily nodded enthusiastically. I get to be flower girl. I've been practicing.
Today was the day.
Not a wedding. Not yet, though the ring Alexander had shown her last week suggested that was coming soon, but something equally important. Today was the garden party Alexander was throwing to introduce Maria and Lily to his world, his business associates, his friends, the board members of Hunt Tech. Maria was terrified. The past 3 months had been like a dream. Alexander had courted her properly, despite the fact that she was living in his house. Dinners out, walks in the park, movie nights with Lily curled up between them. He'd been patient, respectful, never pushing for more than she was ready to give. He'd also been adamant that she didn't work as his housekeeper anymore. You're not my employee, he'd said firmly. You're the woman I love. I want you here because you want to be here, not because I'm paying you. He'd offered her a position at Hunt Tech instead, heading up a new charitable foundation he was creating focused on supporting single mothers. The salary was generous, the work meaningful, and it gave her independence and purpose beyond being Alexander Hunt's girlfriend. But the world they were entering today was different from quiet dinners and family movie nights. Today, she'd face the people who would judge her, who would question whether she was good enough for him, who would whisper that she was just a poor maid who'd gotten lucky. Hey. Alexander appeared in the doorway, devastatingly handsome in a light gray suit. You look beautiful. I'm nervous, Maria admitted. He crossed to her, taking her hands. I know. But remember, you've already won over the toughest critic of all. He glanced at Lily with a smile. I'm not a critic, Lily protested. A flower girl. The most important flower girl in the world, Alexander agreed. He looked back at Maria. They're going to love you. And if they don't, I don't care. You and Lily are my family now. They can accept that or not. It doesn't change anything. Family, Maria repeated softly. The word still felt new, fragile, too precious to be real. Family, Alexander confirmed. He kissed her forehead gently. Ready. The garden was transformed into an elegant party space, with white tents, floral arrangements, and more guests than Maria had anticipated. She recognized some faces from magazines and news articles, tech CEOs, venture capitalists, philanthropists. The first hour was overwhelming. Alexander never left her side, introducing her with unmistakable pride. This is Maria Rodriguez, the director of the Hunt Foundation and the woman who changed my life. Some people were kind. Others were politely distant. A few were openly skeptical, their eyes raking over her modest dress and simple jewelry with thinly veiled disdain. But Lily was the star of the show. She charmed everyone she met, her natural sweetness and enthusiasm impossible to resist. She held court by the dessert table, explaining to anyone who would listen about Mr. Hoppy and her important job as flower girl. It was Richard, the man from that first argument, who finally broke through Maria's nervousness. He approached with a warm smile, a glass of champagne in hand. Ms. Rodriguez, he said, I owe you a debt of gratitude. Me? Maria asked, surprised. That little girl of yours saved a 20-year friendship and a multi-billion-dollar company. He chuckled. Alex and I were about to make a terrible mistake, driven by pride and stubbornness. Lily reminded us what actually matters. He raised his glass. to the wisdom of children and the women who raised them. Maria felt tears prick her eyes. Thank you. No, thank you. I've known Alex since he was an ambitious 20-year-old with more brains than social skills. I've never seen him happy until now. You've given him something money can't buy. As the afternoon wore on, Maria found herself relaxing. Not everyone accepted her. She overheard whispers, saw judgmental looks, but enough people were genuinely kind that it didn't matter as much as she'd feared. Then came the moment that changed everything. A woman in her 60s, dripping in diamonds and designer clothes, approached where Maria stood watching Lily play with some other children. The woman's expression was cold, calculating. "So you're the maid," she said without preamble. Maria's spine straightened. "I'm Maria Rodriguez." You know what everyone's saying, don't you? That you trapped him. Got pregnant on purpose, maybe, or played the poor single mother card until he felt obligated to help you." The words hit like physical blows, but Maria refused to flinch. "I know what some people think. I can't control that." "Can't you? You could leave. Take whatever settlement he'd give you and go back to your own kind. That's enough." Alexander's voice was cold steel. He appeared at Maria's side, his expression furious. "Dorothy, I've tolerated your presence today out of respect for your late husband, but I will not tolerate you insulting the woman I love." Dorothy's eyes widened. "Alex, I'm just trying to—" "To what? Protect me?" "I don't need protection. I need you to leave. Now." "You're making a mistake. The only mistake I made was inviting you." Alexander's voice could have cut glass. "Maria is worth 10 of you. She works hard. She's raised an incredible daughter on her own, and she sees me as a person, not a bank account. That's more than I can say for most of the people here." Dorothy sputtered, her face reddening, before turning and stalking away. Maria touched Alexander's arm. "You didn't have to." "Yes, I did." He pulled her close. "I won't let anyone treat you that way. Not ever." Before Maria could respond, Lily's voice rang out across the garden. "Mama. Mr. Alex. Come quick." They turned to find Lily standing on a small stage area that had been set up for speeches later. She had somehow gotten hold of a microphone, and every guest was now looking at her. "Oh no," Maria breathed, starting toward her daughter. But Lily was already talking, her high, clear voice carrying across the garden. "Hi. Lily. I want to say something important." Alexander caught Maria's hand, stopping her. "Let's see what she does," he murmured. "My mama is the best mama in the whole world," Lily announced. "She works really hard, so we have food and a home. Sometimes she's tired, but she always reads me stories and gives me hugs. And Mr. Alex," she pointed at Alexander. "He really nice. He not lonely anymore because we love him. And he love us." Several guests chuckled, charmed by her innocence. "Some people say mean things about my mama," Lily continued, her little face serious. "But they wrong. My mama is smart and pretty and kind. She the best. And Mr. Alex knows it. That why he love her." She beamed at the crowd. "Thank you for listening. Now I go eat more cake." She dropped the microphone and ran back to the dessert table, leaving the garden in stunned silence. Then someone started clapping. Then another. Within seconds, the entire garden erupted in applause. Maria's vision blurred with tears. Alexander's arm came around her waist, holding her steady. "Out of the mouths of babes," Richard said, appearing beside them again. "She's right, you know. About all of it." That evening, after all the guests had left and Lily was asleep, Maria and Alexander sat on the terrace overlooking the garden. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. "You know what I realized today?" Alexander said, taking her hand. "What?" "That house, all these things, the money. None of it meant anything until you and Lily filled it with life and love and laughter. You taught me what really matters." "You gave us a home," Maria said softly. Not just this house, but safety and security and hope. You gave us a future. You gave me a family. He turned to her, his eyes intense. I love you, Maria. I love Lily. I want to wake up every morning with you beside me and fall asleep every night knowing you're here. I want to watch Lily grow up. I want more children if you want them. I want everything with you. I love you too, Maria whispered. I tried not to. It seemed impossible. But I do. He kissed her then, tender and sweet, full of promise. Later, as they checked on Lily together, a nightly ritual they developed, Maria watched Alexander tuck Mr. Hoppy in beside her sleeping daughter, his expression so full of love it made her heart ache. Do you remember that first day? She asked softly as they left Lily's room. When I broke your vase? I remember thinking I'd never seen anyone so terrified over something so replaceable. I thought you'd fire me. I thought you were the bravest person I'd ever met, coming to work when you were exhausted and worried about your sick daughter, just to make sure she had what she needed. He pulled her close. That's when it started, my falling for you, when I saw how much you loved her. And I started falling for you when you knelt down to accept a hug from a 3-year-old who barged into your meeting, Maria admitted. You could have been angry, but instead you were kind. She offered me Mr. Hoppy. How could I be angry? They stood together in the hallway, holding each other, two people from different worlds who'd found their way to each other through the innocent wisdom of a child. 6 months later, Maria walked down the aisle of a small church, Lily dancing ahead of her in a flower girl dress, scattering petals with abandon. Alexander waited at the altar, his eyes bright with tears. When the minister asked who gave Maria away, Lily piped up loudly. She gave herself. She's strong like that. The church erupted in laughter, and Maria laughed through her own tears. As they exchanged vows, Maria thought about how far they'd come. From a broken vase and a tearful apology to this moment, pledging forever to each other. From employer and employee to partners, equals, lovers. I promise to love you, Alexander said, his voice thick with emotion, to honor you, to build a life with you and Lily and whatever children we're blessed with. I promise to always see you, really see you the way you see me. You're my home, Maria. You and Lily. My family. I promise to love you, Maria said, to stand beside you, to build a future together. You gave us safety when we had none, hope when we'd almost given up. But more than that, you gave us love. You are home too, Alexander. You always will be. When they kissed, Lily cheered loudly, and the church filled with applause and laughter. At the reception, Lily gave a toast that consisted mostly of thanking everyone for coming and explaining in detail how she'd helped Mr. Alex pick out Mama's ring because it had to be pretty, but not too sparkly because Mama don't like showing off. Richard stood and added his own toast. To the maid who tried to apologize for a broken vase, and to the toddler who taught a billionaire what truly matters. May we all be so lucky to find the kind of love this family shares. As Maria danced with Alexander, Lily spinning between them, she thought about how one moment, one terrible moment of dropping a priceless vase, had led to all of this. What are you thinking about? Alexander asked, pulling her closer. About broken vases and unexpected blessings, Maria said. About how sometimes the worst moments lead to the best things. The vase, Alexander said with a smile. I had it repaired, It's in my office.
What?
Why? Because it's part of our story. The day I stopped seeing my home as just a house and started seeing the possibility of it becoming something more. That night, after the reception ended and Lily was asleep in her new room, in their new home, a place they'd chosen together, Alexander and Maria stood on the balcony looking at the stars. Happy, he asked. Beyond happy, Maria answered.
Blessed.
Grateful. Sometimes I still can't believe this is real. It's real, Alexander assured her. And it's forever. And it was. They built a life together, messy and beautiful and full of love. They had 2 more children, both of whom Lily mothered with the same fierce devotion she'd once shown Mr. Hoppy. They grew the Hunt Foundation into one of the country's leading organizations supporting single mothers. They filled their home with laughter and love and the kind of chaos that only a house full of children can bring. But they never forgot where it started, with a frightened maid trying to apologize for breaking something priceless, and a little girl with a stuffed bunny who knew that the most valuable things in life can't be broken: hearts that love, hands that help, and families that form in the most unexpected ways. Years later, when Lily was grown with children of her own, she'd tell them the story. "My mama thought she'd broken something that couldn't be fixed," she'd say. "But really, she'd opened a door that led to everything we have." That's the thing about love. Sometimes it looks like disaster at first. But if you're brave enough to walk through that door, you might find your whole world waiting on the other side. And every time she told the story, she'd smile, remembering a billionaire who learned what really mattered from a 3-year-old and her bunny, and a maid whose love transformed a house into a home.
The end.